personal doubt, lack of confidence. You may have all kinds of internal barriers. In a habit, the value of a habit is to say, well, I'm going to make the move, no matter how I feel. Feeling do not really matter in the world of relationships. This is going to be a controversial statement.
One of the most important aspects also that I want to talk about is like the rarity of the skill. Some guys can be quite good and be good at one behavior. But if you only have one behavior and then the rest of the communication behaviors is not really there, it will not make up for that much. It's better than nothing, but you need a series of behavior to really nail this down. And that is also something that I want to emphasize, you guys, that don't take this for granted. This is something that needs to be practiced over and over again. Those series of behaviors, not one, but series of behaviors. And if we're going to talk about the rarity of this, so when people are coming to you, Julian, and they want advice, they want to have to know more about this area, what would you say that if you're going to make a prediction now of how much they actually knew without, being a communication student or have been studying communication in that way, how much do they actually know about what we're talking about here?
I actually think very little. I mean, it's a funny contradiction, right? In some ways, we communicate every day, so we kind of feel like experts. But we call it, in my field, we call it unconscious incompetence, meaning you don't know how actually not so good you are at the very thing you're trying to get better at. And that's in any art, right? So sometimes, I mean, I've seen my kids, like they're learning something and they think they would know how to do it instantly, but they don't. So in communication, it's the same thing. We use words and language every day, but that doesn't mean that we're great communicators. We have unconscious incompetency. And particularly when I look at these behaviors, my goal, and I love the way, Michael, you put it. So think of it like this. Think of your relationships as like this little line, okay? And on this line are the little dots of positive communication. My sense from talking to people, it's not that they don't do any of it. I mean, people do express love to each other. They do compliment sometimes. They do ask questions sometimes. But it's how often and how consistent they are. So I think in a relationship where people are not learning this art of positive communication, they may have these little moments of positiveness, but they are far in between. My dream for the relationship is to have these behaviors be a constant part of the process of relating. And my sense is that when you practice positive communication, you're going to experience relationships in a way you may never have experienced before. Just the way you said it earlier today, Michael, right? When you said, I don't know the last time maybe I expressed how grateful I am for my partner. Well, okay. That means there's opportunities to do it so much more often. And that is what's going to create a rich relationship. So I'm going to add to this statement, right? We said communication is relationship. I'm going to say quality communication is quality relationships, or high quality communication leads to high quality relationships. Those two things are related, right?
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on that?
Without communication, we can't build something. We can't build relationship because we're not telepathic. I mean, we can guess what the other people are thinking and feeling, but we don't know. And we can't really, I mean, it's one thing what you think as well, and it's a different thing to actually demonstrating it. And we have to do all that through communication or how we listen and so on. Absolutely. Relationship is communication, behaviors. There's nothing else to it, nothing else. And sometimes people think that, oh, but what about the superficial part? Isn't that a connection-based element? No, it isn't. Superficial things has its place, but not in the connection part.
That's correct.
Not at all.
Yeah.
And that is what so many men get wrong. Completely wrong.
Superficial communication will lead to superficial relationships.
Exactly. And those
that's where
go away like this.
Yeah. That's correct, because they're not authentic. There's no sense of genuineness. There's not a real connection. When people are pretending, or performing, they're not able to create a meaningful connection. This is why I always go back. Meaningful communication leads to meaningful relationships. Superficial communication leads to superficial relationships. And you've got to make a choice. What are you after? Because if you want high quality relationships and you are using rhetorical, which is the word you used earlier, Michael, or superficial communication, all you're going to do is you're going to build the very thing you don't want.
Yeah. That is, so guys, for you, that is basically the same as saying pickup routines,
Yeah.
scripted game is the same thing. We use more the academic form of using the word rhetoric, but that's basically what it is, using pickup lines and or something similar, pre-rehearsed things to try to show her that you're the man is what we talk about here. It's just superficial. It's going to lead to superficial relationships. So if we just go to the point where you said that those behaviors might happen once in a while in people that are having relationships, but
Sure.
it's so far between,
That's
that
correct.
happening. What does that tell us? Well, it tells us that we don't have the habit of doing so, the
Absolutely.
habituation. And if you want to be good at something, you have to have it as a habit. And to get it as a habit, we need to start the habituation process. That is consistency. So the main thing here, guys, because I guess that all of you want to learn this, that is to get those behaviors down and start, put them into your day-by-day life, consistency, over and over and over again. And suddenly you just have it. You might even forget that you need to practice on it because you're just doing it. And
Right.
that is when you become cognitive flexible. That is what the experience dependency, that is a neuroscience form. That is when we're creating these strong neural links that is linked to that behavior. And then when you have those neural pathways, in order, you are just that person. You don't need to pretend anything. You are that person. And
That's correct.
that most often means that you're not only yourself, you are more yourself than ever before.
That's correct.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I love that. I think we think very similarly in that way, Michael, that we're not asking people to be different selves. We're actually trying to release our very best self. And I would say, when you talked about habits, I would add that don't let yourself get in the way of the good habits. Because what makes communication so challenging is that we have inside of us internal processes, that includes personal doubt, that includes lack of confidence, that include, I don't know, maybe fear. So you take these three elements and you're like, well, should I invite? Should I greet this person? Should I check in with them? You may have all kinds of internal barriers. In a habit, the value of a habit is to say, well, I'm going to make the move, no matter how I feel. Feeling do not really matter in the world of relationships. This is going to be a controversial statement. Of course, they matter in the sense that people feel things. But what creates relationship is not your thoughts. What creates relationships is not what is inside your heart. What is creating relationship is what you say and do. Once you understand that, that's why the habit is so crucial, because you're not going to listen to your hesitation or to your fear. You're going to disclose. Or you're not going to listen to your tendency to be critical. You're going to find a way to see something beautiful that she's doing. And all of those things, those habits are going to accumulate into first the best part of you, and then ultimately the best part of that relationship.
Wow, you said that beautifully. And guys, remember, when it comes to relationships, both pretty new ones and also the existing longer ones, emotions is involved here. And those emotions is not always displaying the reality. We have a lot of misjudgment about ourselves when it comes to those feelings. It's much more about what we do that forms a relationship than what we feel about what we are doing. But here comes the good thing. Once we start applying the right behaviors that we know has this scientific, robust background and is scientifically proven, scientific principles, like that's what it is. And we start apply that, you're going to get a lot of extremely good reactions from your partner. And what happens when you get a good reactions? Well, the psychologists are calling it you getting a lot of positive reinforcement. And that positive reinforcement going to be translated into real confidence. And you're going to be a confident person in that area. And that particular confidence is also something that's very important in relationships, because you need to be sure of who you are and what you can bring to the table. And what you can bring to the table in relationships is to have meaningful conversations with your partner. Guys, we're going to do a lot more of these kind of podcasts. So look out for future podcasts and future videos. Make sure to subscribe. And I see you all in the next video.